Welcome to the Emerging Lawyer series at the Coffee Conversation Show powered by the Emerging India Forum, TIF, and a tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Theme is Gold Medals, Global Impact, and Grit. We have with us Khubi Agrawal, Legal Counsel at Marico Limited. From courtroom internships to strategic roles in Hindalco and Marico, her journey is as diverse as it is dynamic. A gold medalist from Government Law College and an LLM candidate at Jindal Global Law School. Khubi exemplifies the new age level professional who merges intellect with empathy, policy with purpose. So, over a cup of coffee, let's dive into conversation that's as crisp as a career moves. So, welcome Khubi, today's coffee conversation.
Hi, sir. My pleasure.
Yeah, so let me explain you. There will be three rounds: professional journey, personal journey, and a surprise uh, rapid fire where you'll be in the hot seat. You have to be witty, fun, and quick. And here's your inspiration: Legal AI 101.
Great. Excited, sir.
So let's begin. So, friend, I'm Lion Amir Virani, host at Coffee Conversation, a legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution, author of 15 books. We help law firms, corporate legal startup SMEs, world-class technology, software licensing, and tech training solutions. So, my first question, Kubi, how was the journey shaped up, and what were the key defining moments you had?
Okay. So I think you've broadly given an introduction of how I've reached here so far, but I'll just quickly recapitulate. I graduate. So I've been born and brought up in Bombay. I'm a pedigree of Bombay is what I identify myself as. Graduated law, LLB that is. It was an integrated 5-year course from Government Law College in Bombay. Having done that, this my graduation was pivoted around the time when we were just surging from COVID pandemic all across the world. So while that happened, I had the pleasure of being offered a management trainee stint at Hindalco Industries Limited, which is a metal flagship company of Aditya Birla Group. The most salient feature I'd say about the role, which also answers the second question on one of the turning points in life in the professional journey, so far as that is concerned, was the fact that this role required of us to be on the shop floor and travel across the country, across the very many factories and plant locations of Hindalco. So I would say it was not a typical corporate role, while of course the job was one, but it was hardly had any impressions of a typical desk job because your schedule was typically like any blue collared worker in the shop floor. You would start, you log in at 8:39. There would be a drill of everybody huddling together and starting their work. You have a typical lunch hour where you sit with them, you have lunch, you eat the same food, right? And yeah, that's how the day was. You spend time on the shop floor with all kinds of with everybody on the shop floor, understanding what operational challenges can you assist them with, etc. So yeah, that was the most interesting part of the role, I'd say, that really humbled me both as a professional and as an individual in life. I don't think I had been exposed to that kind of a facet of life that involves really spending, going through that physical gruel and having that grit that demands of you to deliver an output in the factory, in a manufacturing setup. So that was in Dalco for me. Spent good 2 years there. Started my career under the guidance of I would say my guru, my mentor, and somebody I really look up to in life, Mr. Shankar VR, who is currently also the General Counsel and Chief Legal Officer at Hindalco. Uh, while that happened, I also had the opportunity thereafter to, you know, pursue newer horizons, I would say. And the fact that Delhi as a city had always fascinated me. Once again, both as a lawyer, as a professional, it's culturally, historically very rich. It has all kinds of courts, government, bodies, and all authorities situated and, all flunging around each other there. So once again, had the chance to work with Marico. That was my second and the next turning point. Marico is an FMCG company. It is a very consumer front, agile, very different from how you would how the pace of a shop floor demands of a lawyer versus what is demanded of in a corporate, and especially in the role that Marico offered was partnering with the startup businesses, which is I'd say all the more of a fast-paced environment. That happened. I was based out of New Delhi, which is also the place I'm currently situated out of. September of 2023, and since then I have had the pleasure and privilege of working with some of the best legal minds, I'd say. Who's of so To name some is my current manager, Mr. Divakar Singh Pundir, Mr. Amit Bhasin, who's the general counsel here, and yeah, I think it's been a great learning curve so far as that's concerned. These have been the two defining moments of my career, I would say, so far as professional journey is concerned. Um, looking back on what what else could have defined me as a professional, I would say would be that day when um, I so there was an interview with a law firm. There was a PPO I had received. This was around the time when COVID was happening, and something back then that told me that you know maybe I'm not ready for what is demanded of a law firm. Maybe there is something about judicial services I can do. There is something about government services I can do, and yeah, actually, honestly, looking back, I don't know how I ended up, except that everything so far has been a great journey. Everything so far has been nothing short of a privilege, and the fact that I am more than excited to see what lies ahead of here. And that is about, I think, my professional journey so far.
Wow. So let's continue conversation. What's one regulatory blind spot most businesses underestimate, especially in the FMCG sector?
Blind spot in the FMCG sector. I would not call it a blind spot, more than a wide space. When I say that, I mean something which is yet to unfold for itself completely for us to really know, to scratch through the surface. I think that would be AI for me, as a young lawyer and as somebody who deals extensively with startup businesses. AI is something on the advertisement, content, and copyright front can pose once again, blind spots can pose a new kind of a challenge so far as protection of our rights are concerned, right? Today, I see the kind of content between a deep fake and an actually short one, which is hardly any difference to make whatsoever, except that you need like an AI itself to be able to detect that this is a deep fake, and to go against, who do you go against, right? Who do you claim your rights against from an account that is being posted, which is anonymous, which maybe is operating under a pseudonym? And as big brands which invest heavily in its marketing and ad spends, once again, I'm talking specifically of FMCG here. I think AI, the regulation of it, maybe the lack of it thereof, rather, is something which is a newer space for India, and something that can pose going forward if it continues to remain unregulated as a blind spot. So I think that would be my answer.
Wow. Good. So, Khubi, your work across industrial FMCG sectors, how do legal challenge differ between manufacturing heavy industries and consumer centric ones?
So, if I've understood the question correctly, you're asking me to draw nuances between the challenges that are posed in manufacturing vis-a-vis consumer sector.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe I'll begin with pointing out what challenges I feel are, loom across both these industries, and then maybe we can draw the nuance around it. Starting first with manufacturing industry today, I think the challenge involves in the multiple licensing and compliance reporting regime, right? So let's say, for example, I'm talking about a manufacturing setup, like any run-of-the-mill manufacturing setup, starting right with labor licenses to environment licenses to health and safety related one, which involves factory license, and the subsuming and the underlying ones, which runs parallelly with it. Now I'm talking about several other safety related compliances which have other, it's dedicated regulatory authorities, depending on the equipment, depending on the processes. What I'm trying to converge this discussion is into the fact that I, as big groups, as big industries, I don't have just one manufacturing industry, and the fact that on top of it, I'm watching a top line where every compliance is coming to me with a cost, either in terms of the manpower involved to ensure that I'm reporting it adequately and timely to authorities, or the fact that every compliance has subsuming underlying costs when it comes to, let's say, installing an air pollution control device or maintaining a green belt within the 5 kilometer territory, etc. So what I'm trying to basically point out is that the cost of compliance vis-a-vis the cost of running a factory is something that the industries are looking at, which can pose a challenge going, which of course has been posing a challenge, and which as a lawyer on the business partnering front, I feel is something that can be solved, which is something that can be rather optimized when it comes to having multiple reporting regimes and multiple authorities which can come under one house or one banner and regulate the operations of manufacturing units. Having said that, I think a lot has gotten better, of course, with the new labor codes that we are discussing, which are just around the corner to be notified and things like that. So there are substantial changes and progressive ones, I would say, perhaps happening on that front. Only that as we aspire to be one of the most developed and a developed nation's aspiration towards, let's say, 2040, 2047, this is something that we'll have to, this will pose as maybe like a hiccup going forward as we keep advancing as a capex intense nation, is my take on it. Coming to the consumer side of things, so consumer industry and FMCG industry, I think the challenges would I'm just, I'm trying to think what separate and apart from this. Something on the advertisement front, the compliance is the, okay, so yeah, maybe this is something that I have been actively dealing with it myself, so maybe I can talk about it with my experience. There are across different platforms in the advertisement and content world, there are different, once again, regulatory bodies, right, that are overseeing how the content is being presented on that particular platform. So let's talk about uh, cable television network, which has CRT and acting rules under it. Then there's a concept of CBFC in case your content is going both, let's say, on television or on theaters, or the kind of mediums and channels that are being governed by it. Now we are talking about OTT platforms, which are currently at least not governed under CBFC regime, but under the IT Act, under the social media intermediary rules. Just like this, now we are also talking about social media platforms, which are the new form means of advertisement and content publication. So what I'm trying to once again converge in terms of what challenge we see is the fact that multiple authorities, same. So my piece of content or advertisement in this is the same. Literally, it's a 1 minute, let's say, a video or a reel that I'm posting on every platform that I just named, a minute back, and the fact that for every particular respective platform, I have different compliance. I have different kind of clearance today, and I have different kind of lenses that are put to regulate this content, which I feel as a brand, once again, while broadly the principles are same, but definitely I do stand the risk at every juncture that maybe, let's say, on CBFC, which appears to be the most stringent one in my experience, my content is way more censored than, let's say, on a social media. So the anchors, the guardrails of regulating content, advertisement specific today, is something which I feel once again needs a convulsion into the fact that there needs to be a common code, or there needs to be a common regulatory authority which is overseeing the process at the helm of it. So this is something I feel from, once again, from business side and specific to consumer industries, is the challenge I feel can be overseen or can be looked into.
Wow. So, Kubi, how do you approach risk assessment when dealing with emerging areas like digital business?
So by emerging areas, so you mean emerging areas in terms of, let's say, legal risks or compliance matters, or it's general across the business?
Risk assessment for like for e-commerce, who are into ये digital business like अपना ये online business. So
Got
what kind of risk they have to cover? Legal risk assessment.
Right. So I want to begin with mentioning at the outset that, of course, we are a. I mean, I work. I have been working for organizations which are very compliance conscientious ones, which are public listed companies. So mandatorily and by the intrinsic design of it, the reporting regime, the compliance, the governance process, rather, let me put it that way, is quite stringent. Is quite set in process. So that itself brings a lot of so what I'm trying to tell you is that the culture of compliance as such is not an optional one, and this is something I think is the start of the conversation when it comes to how we set to govern the processes in any organization. Is it a culture that I'm optionally putting or I'm mandatorily inducing, right? So while culture is something we, I mean, as organizations, as a fabric of the organization, we imbibe in the people, in the aura, in the place around us. um, Once again, how we look at in risk assessment terms is we stay in touch with, of course, the industry trends. We're a part of industry associations and bodies which get the pulse of the new laws, which new regulations coming into fore. One thing I can tell you is the government by itself doesn't introduce new legal regimes or new statutes or compliances, right? It's a process which is not so accessible to the common public, but the fact that industry bodies and associations which are a part, which are actively working with the government to advocate on changes in laws or bringing about new laws, already have either access to the drafts that they give comments to. By the time it's a draft notification in Gazette, it comes to the public to give their comments for any changes that can come, right? One part of risk assessment is when in this entire law making stage and subsequently the draft stage itself, industries have a lot of time by when they can sit in the boardroom, sit with their stakeholders, tell them the new change that is being expected and which will come at some point in time, if not today itself, and which is a good starting point for any kind of risk assessment on the execution front, on the new laws and the new regimes that are coming for the organizations. I think if I were to take a step back on the risk assessment, which is basically anticipating something which is not even being discussed, is something that you do from a more parental organizations, expectation POV. So when I say that, once again, a lot of the organization's governance also flows from how the parent company or how the sister company affiliates have mandated as a part of its process, which is governed from the top, right? I think a lot of it comes from there as well. That let's say there's an ESG mandate or a reporting structure where the company is changing about its policies, maybe not as such mandatory for its private companies or its subsidiary ones, but that's also part of risk assessment as I look at it from my lenses, that we are making our startups or our companies which are digital front all the more future ready. If tomorrow they were to scale up and they were to be more in the public lenses in terms of expectations or governance or its resources, etc. I mean, today, maybe at standing at this juncture of the career, I think these are the two most fundamental pillars of risk assessment that I see, that I work on actively. Of course, as I also advance, I will have better access to how risk as a concept is also, shaped up in the industry and in my own career. So, yeah, that.
Mm. So, Khubi, how do you build legal awareness within non-legal teams like sales, manufacturing?
Very interesting and close to my heart, I'll say honestly, because this is where I've had the most time to build a lot of good equity with my stakeholders over the 4 years of my career. I'll start with how I have come to realize how my business partners think of legal, and then maybe how I try to then thereafter help them. So, in any organization, on the business partnering side, legal is a function that is more like, I mean, in all honesty and fairness, is someone like a watch guard of sorts, right? So you're somebody who's looked at it as a gatekeeper, as a conscience keeper, as somebody who's the last resort of any conscience and sanity check that can be done to a decision process or a document. So with that said, when you really look at anybody from a legal department and a salesperson approaching them, their first instinct is that, okay, me telling a legal is going to invite more questions, right? So that's the first feeling they have, that I don't want to invite more questions to my job, like, and for that reason, therefore, there will be a lot of initial resistance in them approaching to somebody in legal and telling that, okay, this is an issue, or this is something that I need your help with, etc. I think so. When having said that, is what my first realization of how I can better partner with business was. You have dialogues with them instead of an interrogation, right? So let's say there is you from a sales side, you're approached with a check bounce case or somebody of a distributor matter where there's a problem of recovery and things like that. You sit with them. I think it's more about making them feel like this is a problem that I am partaking with you to solve, not that you report to me, I investigate, and then I I fix it for you, right? So this is something like a teamwork. We work on it together. Only that I ask you questions which help us understand the position of the company, the exposure, the liability, in order for the board, in order for the seniors, in order for the senior echelon to be able to decide how we have to align our interest versus the risk that we are looking at. So, having said that, so how I build equity with my partners, right? As I said, I sit with them now. I tell them that first of all, let's sit, let's understand the problem. We are not solving it right away. Let's get the facts right. Let's get what is it that we are trying to solve. Are we solving recovery, or are we solving the stock at hand issue, right? So very nuanced things, that if I have a problem of recovery, my first concern is to, if I know that there'll be a problem of liquidity with this distributor, I'd rather get the stock at hand back from him than going straight away to claim, any money is due on him and things like that. So I think understanding that with the business, trying to get the pulse of what is it that he really wants first, right? And then to sit with the facts, sit with the law, sit with the risks, and then understand, keep given this set of facts, what will be the most ideal. So then it goes into tranches: the immediate fix that you need and the long term fix that you need. If it's a recurring pattern with the sales, even if from the same person or different people, I my next fix will then to be ensure that there is a process, there's a policy, there are, I'm doing more trainings on that front in order to plug that gap, in order to plug that hole for my business. So it's really all about making them feel that you understand them, not that you are pointing fingers at them. Is my short point to how you build equity with your partners. So
Ah. So, Kubi, do you think lawyers need to be more tech savvy in today's digitally driven corporate world?
Sir, I think I will just answer that question with a very honest statement that I don't think it's no more a question of whether or not. It's actually an expectation. So today, as young lawyers especially, I will not talk about the generations who are my seniors. Definitely, any young lawyer, it's not an expectation anymore. In fact, your value is gauged. I wouldn't say, it's not a substantial kind of matrix, but definitely it is an influencing factor in your kitty to be as much tech savvy as you can. It's not just for your personal benefit that you save time, but surely goes a long way in creating better value even for your stakeholders and businesses. So, yeah, as I'll reiterate and maybe answer this question in one sentence, no more an expectation. It's no, rather, it's no more of a choice that you make. It's an expectation that comes unsaid, but quite loud and clear. That because you're a young lawyer, you have to be savvy with tech, you have to be savvy with AI, and in fact, help the business use it, help your stakeholders, your seniors, and the not so tech savvy people use it, because that's the culture organizations today are trying to bring uh, intrinsically in their fabric as well.
Ah, okay. So, Kubi, you've been a gold medalist at GLC, Government Law College. How being a gold medalist helps in someone's career?
Uh, I want to answer this question after having spent 4 years in a corporate job. I don't know about law firms. I don't know yet about any other practice area except this. It definitely gets you a table in the interview. But beyond that, I think it's all about what you've learned and what value you can bring to the table that really defines the moment. Maybe yes, that's I think that's the only one line that I have for any junior, that gold medal does bring you a certain kind of I'd say cushion seat, maybe, and maybe for the one or two initial interviews, but that's it. I think everything else after that is what you create for yourself, your legacy, your work, and things like that.
Wow.
Also, in fact, if I were to add, the fact that you are a gold medalist also heightens the expectations of how much you're expected to know. In fact, so if anything, yeah, just be more prepared to face questions which you think you would not. I mean, yeah, it's just maybe you would have extra questions to answer because there are expectations that you must be intelligent, you must be more in the knowing of things than the rest of your peers. So I think yeah, that
Wow.
will be my take on it.
So, my last question for your professional journey round: what advice would you give to young lawyers who want to join in-house legal team?
I'm trying to understand advice in terms of how they should crack the interviews or advice in terms of how they should be as in-house lawyers.
Both, both.
I think cracking interviews in-house will be about you knowing your having a knack or a business acumen. So I would say to any young lawyer that if you intend to crack in-house, it's very instrumental today to be very not just tech savvy but business savvy as well. How much you know about the top line, reading balance sheets, let me put it this way, or the HR systems, um, contractual laws, your Incoterms. It just, gives you plus two in the interview because what you will be doing ahead of your career in as an in-house will be a lot of business partnering, just as you would do the legal bit. So I would say there's equal emphasis to both business and legal once you keep advancing in the profession. Your leadership skills, your emotional intelligence quotient, I think all of it put together really has equal stake in your career as an in-house. So yeah, maybe that is something that can really help you on being a great professional in in-house. I think I'm too young to even impact advice. The fact that I'm myself 4 years in the career, I'm also figuring it out. But whatever little maybe I've learned so far will be that spend time with your business. As lawyers, maybe our intrinsic craving is to take to our desks and our books and feel that oh, we're the best lawyers and we've made the best draft out of the document given to us. But ultimately, and in all honesty, maybe that's a document that your sales or your business did not even need, right? They just needed a one page, or they just needed like maybe an email go ahead on the transaction sometimes. So I think building equity with your business, understanding the business with the business partners, not on YouTube, not in the playbooks or policies or SOPs, but spending time yourself. Like, let's say if it's an FMCG, are you doing your market visits yourself or not? Like your sales folks and marketing folks are doing. Are you standing with the distributors and understanding what their problems are? Are you sitting with your marketing folks to understand how an advertisement content is created? What goes into prioritizing what product is, launched at what time, and how seasonally your launches are, placed around to gather more traction for your business. Things like that. So what I'm trying to tell you is spend time with the business to create value with them. It's not about you knowing the business or knowing the nerd part of it. Let me put it this way: you know how to read the balance sheet, but your commercial and your finance folks still are not able to build that equity with you to tell you what exactly the issue with recoveries are. Will eventually reflect in your career, in your overall trajectory of scheme of things. So I think spend time with the business to create value with them is what I'll tell young folks, and something I'm also personally learning and emulating myself in my life currently. So I think yeah, these will be my pinch of salt 2 cents with lots of caveats that I'm still figuring out my own career in in-house and trying to find my own space there. So that is about it.
So let's go to the next round and understand Khubi as a person. Tell us about your family and your formative years.
My family and formative years. So I'll talk about my family first. I come from a business family. When I say that, I mean I have parents. I have two siblings who are all in businesses of their own respective kinds. So they run their individual, businesses, and they're all based out of Bombay, which is also where I hail from. Um, about my family, my father's into textile, my mother's into basically diamond jewelry. My brother's in a corporate job, but in diamonds. My sister's a travel planner. She's a freelancer, and I'm the middle child, so I was naturally the rebel. I would like to think of it that way. So yeah, I was the odd man out. I chose a non-practice or a non-business career for myself, and before I'm asked why was that, I will answer it myself. So both choosing legal and a career in law was a choice that I made to fulfill vicariously the dream of my mother. So my mom was a law graduate way back in the 70s when women were in fact not even allowed to work or step out of home. So this was around that time. Some women have been allowed to pursue a career in that. And as I was also growing up and graduating my high school, I was told I had grown up to hear these stories from her that how she started as a youngster but eventually had to choose business and all. So I think that was my motivating factor to have chosen. It just came to me naturally that okay, I'll be a lawyer. So and then things happened from there. So that's how I ended up, and that's about my family and about them.
Wow. So let's go memory down lane. Your days at St. Xavier's School. Uh, what's a memorable moment or heartwarming stories that, when you reflect back, bring a smile on you?
That I reflect back, bring a smile to my face. Um,
Hmm.
I think the first story as the youngest uh, memory I have of Khubi was like an 8-year-old who was Kasturba Gandhi's mother in a play, and so play, public speaking, expression theater was always something that I somehow found myself naturally gravitating towards. So I think there's a funny story I have of myself as an 8-year-old that I was playing Kasturba Gandhi's mother in a play, and this was supposed to be an inter-school play. So we were all dressed up, ready, and we were traveling like almost 25 kilometers to South Bombay. Like my school is in northwest Bombay, which is in Dheri. So we were traveling in the bus, and I had a sari wrapped around me because of the look and the entire role that I had to play. And I remember by the time we got off the bus that we were on the way to the stage to make that play presentation, whatever. Um, it kind of so happened that I stepped on my own sari or pallu and it started coming off. And thankfully, I was wearing a track pant beneath it, and
Oh,
yeah, it was a huge embarrassment I created of my own as a mother of Gandhiji, but with all due respect to the play and myself. But yeah, I mean, just wrapped myself, ran away, went to the washroom, came back, and yeah, there were a host of people pinning me up, and then we had a reshoot and things like that. So that was a fun memory I have, and then of course life went on from there. So
wow.
yeah, it was
So,
quite an
Khubi,
explicit memory I could give, but for a podcast, I realized.
so now, Khubi, why did you decide to do uh, LLM? And my second question is, why did you decide to go to Jindal Global Law School? And how has the journey been?
So, fair disclosure, Jindal Global Law School, I have no sponsorship or anything from them. This was a degree out of pure interest I have. Maybe I would say interest and a dream of the fact that I also need a master's degree of my own. While I was in a professional trajectory, and I did not want myself to really leave a full-time job, honestly. So Jindal happened around the time when I was anyway looking at a master's degree, not honestly just for the sake of it, but the fact that I I wanted to better my reading and research skills. I wanted to get in touch with that again. So having at the outset, so my LLM was in corporate law, which is also something which is the majority chunk of my current practice, right? Jindal by itself is one of the most premium private legal institutions in India when it comes to academic discourse. I have personally, in fact, as an undergrad student, also appeared for entrance exams and attended conferences there. I knew the degree of pedagogy there, the kind of teachers, the kind of curriculum offered, and Jindal still happens to be one of the law schools which have very tech savvy curriculums and modes of education dissemination, right? As against the old school curriculums of reading out of the textbooks, things like that. Jindal's curriculum really sat with me, aligned with me when it came to case study based modes of learning. Be it exams, be it assignments, be it dissertations, etc. So the fact that I, as a professional, found myself being more interested in that way of learning because I could literally, with every lesson or class, apply my learnings on a life case study was something that really helped my career growth and my learning quotient. So I think that it overall helped me, and that was the reason why an LLM, in the grand scheme of things, really just boosted my confidence, my abilities, and my quotient as a profession in a professional in corporate sector.
Wow. So, what's a hobby or skill you have picked up recently that people wouldn't expect from a lawyer?
From a lawyer. Uh, so the two of them came to my mind, but one I think they would expect of a lawyer, but I still name. So two things I've picked recently in the last 1 year. One has been uh, basically pistol shooting. So it's an air pistol. Of course, for the fair disclosure, it's not a fire bullet. It's an air bullet. This is something I learned as a school kid when once again I was around ninth or tenth, and I wanted to just pursue it. I saw one day there's a shooting range around my home, so I was like, let's just try and pick it up again. That was one thing I picked. Another thing, which is something I picked up a couple of years back, but I have gotten back to again in the recent past, is graphology. So graphology is basically loosely translated into the science of handwriting. So it's basically a skill that involves analyzing handwriting of people to understand their personality traits overall. So that is something that I've pursued as a hobby or as a side learning with the job recently. So
Wow.
yeah, other things of course for lifestyle and health, you go for running, yoga, meditation, things like that. So yeah, those I don't consider as hobbies, more like lifestyle disciplinary decisions you make. So,
So, what's one tradition or festival your family celebrates that you look forward to every year?
I think as an Indian or rather a North Indian kid, Diwali is always going to be a festival that is a sacrosanct event. I wouldn't even call it a festival; it's like a sacrosanct event where everybody is mandatorily supposed to assemble under the roof and ensure that everybody is helping around doing decorations, rangoli, lighting the lamps and doing all the puja related preps. So I think that's one event that I honestly look forward to the most, and is also celebrated with grandeur at my home.
Wow. So, since you're a Mumbaikar, what's that one spot in Mumbai which you and your friends go again and again to chill out and relax?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to go for the cliche ones, but also I have cafes which are my favorites, so which I can name. So of course the usual Marine Drive and Juhu Beach and Powai Lake and all that places I've been to. I honestly, and maybe I'm going to irk a lot of people here that while I'm fond of them, but it's not like my most my most go-to places. In Bombay, there are cafes and places that I've really taken to that I love, and those are my, it's like my treasured places that if I'm not anywhere else, I'll be in there. I'll be found there. One of my most favorite ones is the Taj Tea House in Bandra. Just opposite Leelavati Hospital, you take like a left, and I think it's a minute or 2 minute walk from there. One of the most serene places I find in Bombay is that corner, is that cozy place. which has everything to offer from tea and beverages and a nice cozy place with music and cookies. So I think that place for me will be the most important one in Bombay.
So my last question for your personal journey round. So googly one, describe Khubi in one line.
Weird, gritty, ambitious, humble.
Wow. So let's put you in the hot seat, the rapid fire round. Your
Done.
go-to comfort food,
Dal chawal.
your favorite color,
Purple, violet one. Yeah.
your dream travel place.
Travel place would be Northern Lights. Any country, so basically the Scandinavian countries, Sweden,
Wow.
or maybe like yeah, Norway.
Best piece of advice received.
I'm so sorry. Can I get that question again?
Best piece of advice received.
Best piece of advice received will be always assume good intent.
Late night binge or early morning jog.
Early morning job.
One food you can never say no to.
South Indian.
Uh, tea or coffee to recharge.
Coffee, but literally any beverage. Like the ones who know me, they know that I literally survive on beverages. So, but yeah, coffee is my goal.
Wow.
Cheers to that.
Wow. And you did well. And here's your book, which will be autographed and sent to you. So, friends, it's a lovely conversation which we had on a Saturday evening. So, as you said, goodbye, being a gold medalist will add some value, but ultimately, it is all about what value you can bring to the table of being a wherever you are at a law firm or an in-house. Expectations will rise because you need to know more than what is desired. So there are other interesting insights like Kubi has shared in the coffee conversation, this episode. So watch the episode as she has gone through the journey, and when you want to be at an in-house role of an a in heavy manufacturing, industrial, FMCG, in-house counsel roles. This is the episode where you'll get a lot of insights. And if you're only featured like Khubi, visit our website, the Emerging India Forum, or our LinkedIn page, or connect with one of coffee speakers to invite you to a cup of coffee conversation. So stay tuned, subscribe, and we meet on Monday with another coffee speaker and engage in their journey in the inspiring stories. So thank you, take care, and enjoy your weekend.